is Mr. Flood. I cannot deal with changing my password and the budget on the same night. So do something about it. At 5 o'clock. So if we could have Ms. Clark. I'd like to welcome all of our guests. Oh, wait, there are none?
Well, they are. They're just paid employees.
They're voluntold.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, President Clem, Dr. O'Brien, Board of Trustees. This evening we are going to engage in our first budget workshop of the year, and we have a lot to discuss. A lot has been going on in the legislature, and as well as the administration has been working very hard on getting this budget put together for you all thus far. So we'll jump right in. We'll talk about what's going on with the legislature, of course. Then we'll also discuss the TASB study draft and compensation. We'll talk about average daily attendance numbers and putting it all together in a budget summary format, and then we'll talk about the calendar and next steps. So first of all, legislative session ongoing until May 29th, which is Sign Die. So a lot of activity occurred last week. It's really ramping up, with, I forgot how many days. I think it's like 60-something days left. But last week we got a little Easter surprise with the voucher House amendment by Herrero that was approved by by the House members, basically, prohibiting any funds to be spent on vouchers in any form. So now we'll talk about that a little bit more here, but one of the other things I would like to talk about is House Bill 100, which is the main school finance vehicle for this session, and it's authored by Representative King, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the election changes and Chapter 313 changes that are coming our way so far that we know of. So first of all, School Finance House Bill 100 from Chairman King. These are some of the proposed highlights, but this slide right here is very, very important, and I'll tell you why. The Formula Transition Grant, which came about as a result of House Bill 3 back in 2019 session, they put this hold harmless in place when they went to current year values, which was a change from using prior year values, which was a huge change for school districts in calculating their revenues. So they put the hold harmless in place for that very reason, to hold us harmless until 24-25 school year. At some point along the line, they also had a funding cap that was put in place at $400 million. So with all the property value increases that have occurred over the last couple of years, it has put pressure on that $400 million cap. That said, they are reneging on some of the promise that they made on that formula transition grant, to the effect that it could affect this year and next year. For example, I did a summary of finance run just last week, week before last, I think it was, and their summary of finance from TEA had a $6 million differential due to a 66% cap based on their calculations. Well, we all saw that, all the school districts saw that, and we were very concerned because that's this year, and they're supposed to honor it through next year. and it would have hit our district by $6 million. Well, they retracted that and said, that's not, going to happen. So we went back to them holding us harmless. However, I called Dr. Brownson from TASBO and asked them, when will we know, and she said, oh, the fun part about the cap and it's called proration, is that it's really not final until it's final. So that's September. So we may not know if they throw something at us until September, and our budget has long closed, to be able to make budget amendments. We have to make budget amendments in June, and that's the cutoff. Then the school year is closed. So if you would like to make a call in support of, first of all, them honoring their 23-24 and 24-25 promise to districts to hold us harmless, that would be wonderful. And then also in Chairman King's bill, he has a proposal to extend it to 2030. So that would really, really help our district out, and there are quite a few districts that would be affected by that not happening. So I can't remember if it's Midland ISD or one of those out there in West Texas, but they stand to lose $50 million if this funding transition grant goes away. So, I mean, it's big dollars, and it could affect us tremendously, but we definitely want them to keep their promise through 24-25 school year to make sure that we're not, surprised with a huge, multi-million-dollar hit to our fund balance. So does anybody have any questions on that before we move forward? All right. So also in Chairman King's proposal is a basic allotment increase of $90 for 23-24, and also an additional $50 for 24-25. However, because of the formula transition grant and the way it's complicated, but the way it works is that because we're being held harmless with the formula transition grant, it would take a $200 increase in basic allotment to increase our 2024 Goose Creek revenues due to the formula transition grant, because we're getting money in to hold us harmless because it's based on prior year values versus current year values. So it's just a complexity in the formula, but that's what it would take for 2024 for us to actually see an increase. However, when the formula transition grant does go away, we'll basically be maintaining, because then the $200, or excuse me, the $90 and the $50 increases, they will fill the bill for what was the formula transition grant. So it's just holding us harmless. So we're just going to kind of stay static for a while, even if they do increase it. But we still want those basic allotment increases, most definitely, because we would be harmed more if the basic allotment is not increased when the formula transition grant does go away. But if it does get extended to 2030, that would be fantastic. Also, they're citing some changes in special program allotments to be enrollment-based as opposed to ADA-based. Now, that's not with regular ADA. They're not conceding to that, but some of the special program allotments. Also, there's going to be some updates to special ed funding, increased transportation funding, a new math pathways allotment, and a new fine arts allotments being discussed right now. It's not finalized, of course. All right, so now we'll start getting into our specific budget goals, and these have not changed. We're, employing the glide method with both our budget reserves and our staffing policy. Of course, we want to avoid any reductions in force, which is why we started the budget process in November. We're constantly exploring district-wide efficiencies, and we also started off with a reduction in central office and support budgets. Now, what have we done so far? So we've been hard at work since November. We've accomplished a lot. So we have actually reduced our budget by $14 million, including all these items here, just over $4 million on central admin and support staff reductions, $42,500 reduction in elected leadership costs. Thank you. $1.2 million reduction in auxiliary costs, $600,000 reduction in campus administration and other non-teaching costs, $515,000 reductions in transportation, and $7.5 million by applying the revised pre-COVID staffing guidelines. So, accomplished a lot thus far. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Bollinger to talk about compensation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clark. So we're going to talk a little bit about, TASB recently did a study for us to provide different compensation models, and so we're going to share highlights from that. And then if you want additional details, we can follow up with that at the next workshop. Also, we have a representative from TASB who can come and share additional information if needed, if that's requested as well. And so when they provided a compensation package for us, or proposal, as in years past, they have comparison districts for us. So our comparison group, or our market survey comparison group, are other districts, 21 other districts in Region 4, so it's based off proximity. You can see that there is a difference in student enrollment. There's also a difference in the number of full-time employees that we have compared to other districts. So this is sorted alpha, and then we're at the bottom, so we're number 22 in the comparison group. But as we go through several charts, this is the group that we're looking at. You can see there's a big range in size, but it's based off proximity within Region 4. So this slide right here, this pie chart shows just distribution of total experience, and it's for our teachers, librarians, and nurses, just the level of experience that we have. So when you look at this chart, there are some insights that we can pull out of it. First of all, is that half of our teaching staff is 10 years or less in experience. And so we know that we want to build experience. The positive is if we're able to focus on retention and to retain the staff, then we will be able to grow that experience throughout the years, and that we'll have a sustainable teaching staff. So we want to make sure we continue to implement strategies for retention. But this is just as far as years of experience, this is how we're falling for this year. Okay, so this slide will make more sense once we look at the next slide. But just as a line graph, when you look at our salary offerings for teachers compared to our market comparison group, you can see that we are above the median in 0-year salary, 5-year salary, slightly above it during 10-year salary, and then we fall slightly below it during 15, and slightly more below that during 20-year salary. So you can see where we fall and how we pay our teachers based off experience, and where we're following, where we fall basically compared to the group that we're looking at. And so we can see that very close to the median, slightly above for our more inexperienced teachers, and then slightly below for our more experienced teachers. In more detail, that data is presented here, and so there's a lot on this slide, and so I want to spend a little bit of time on it. So Goose Creek's data is at the bottom or near the bottom with the orange tab, and so you can see just where we're listed there. I'm not sure. Yeah, there we go. And then where the orange line is, that's where we fall based off how this is sorted, and it's sorted by 0-year experience. And so if we had an Excel spreadsheet here, we could sort it by different categories here, but just for simplicity, it's sorted by 0-year experience. And so that orange line is us, Goose Creek CISD. The green line represents, for 0-year experience, the top quartile. So that's the top 25%. And then the blue line is the median. So if you sort these from high to low, then the blue line is right in the middle, and then the bottom 25% is the purple line. Okay, so that's how this is sorted, and then you can just go through the comparisons if you have more time to look at how we compare to and we'll get into that as well with future slides, but just how we compare to our market comparison group. Also, one thing that was noted to us is that the range is pretty tight from low to high. So if you look at the range, it's not a very broad range. At the very bottom is $59,000 for 0-year teachers, all the way up to $64,000. And even if you take out that first category, the range is even smaller. And so we're all very competitive. Often that our teachers may or may not make decisions based off salary, but usually $1,000 or $2,000 may not make a big impact. It has to be other factors as well, as far as positive culture and other things that we offer with the compensation package. Okay. Also at the very bottom, it shows our rank compared to our comparison group. And so you can see how we fall with 0-year salary, 5-year salary, 10-year salary, all the way down the line. And that rank mimics that line graph that we saw before, how we are slightly above the median, where we rank, out of 22 districts, basically, we're in 9th place, and then we fall to, or go up, I guess, 8th place, then fall back down to 9th place. So we're above that median, and then we start to dip a little bit, not by much, but we're slightly below the median for 15-year, 20-year as well, if that makes sense. And then in parentheses, that just shows how far off we are from the median, the dollar difference between the median and where we're at. Any questions on this slide? Okay. So what we're going to share next is what a 2% increase would look like, and then a 3% increase as far as compensation package for teacher pay. We're also going to show a slide that shows for all employees, but we're going to focus in on the teacher pay for this presentation. And so for a 2% increase, the starting salary would start at $62,150, $62,150. The average teacher pay increase for a 2% raise would be about $1,300. That would fluctuate a little bit depending on how many years of service you have, but on average it would be $1,300. And then for a 3% raise, starting salary would be $62,850, and the average teacher pay increase would be about $2,000. Okay, so this slide here shows across the board what a 2% pay increase would look like. And so at that very top line, same data as before, that starting salary. Now this doesn't include a sign-on bonus or a retention bonus, so that's not included in this salary, but that $62,150 is a starting salary. That would cost the district $2.36 million to provide that 2% raise. And this slide has it broken down by each category, from central admin, campus administration, paraprofessionals, clerical, menial trades. So if the district were to choose to do a 2% pay increase across the board, then the total cost estimate would be around $4.45 million. So again, that would be 2% across the board. For teachers only, it would be 2.36. Okay? If you put that data on a line graph compared to this year's salaries, so if you remember, the orange line is Goose Creek here. The 2% raise is indicated by the green dotted line, and so that just shows where we would fall. Now, this doesn't take into account other raises from other districts, and so we don't have that data yet. And so, of course, if they're providing raises too, their lines would move up as well. But it just shows you sort of where we fall, where we would fall with the 2% raise here. Okay, and then the same data, but looking at a 3% raise, what would the numbers look like in this case? And so a 3% raise, the starting salary would be $62,850, and the total cost for just teachers, librarians, and nurses would be around $3.6 million for that 3% increase. And as a reminder, that would provide about a $2,000 increase for average increase for teachers. Again, it's broken down by category, so you can see each category, and so the total cost estimate would be around $6.45 or $6.44 million if you were to do a 3% raise across the board. Okay, and then the last data piece here for the compensation options here is the same slide, but it shows what a 3% pay increase would look like compared to current salaries in our comparison market group. And so you can see that if they were not to give a raise at all across the board, then we would be quite a bit above the median. Okay, any questions on the 2% and 3% options?
First of all, in the slide 13 and 15, which show us the numbers, are those straight salary or any benefits shown in that?
So this is, I believe this is straight salary.
Okay,
Yeah.
I assumed that, but I wanted to ask, is there I couldn't find a correlation between slide 13 and 15 where I could say 1% costs me this, because I would think 1% would cost a certain amount, 2% would be twice that, 3%, but it doesn't work out that way. So what's constant and what's variable in this?
Well, if you were to look at a 1%, the equity adjustments would end up being a little bit more.
Okay.
The lower
So
the percentage.
that's what's throwing my simpleton math off.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but would it be fair to say I could divide that by 2 and that's approximately 1%?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd probably have to add a little bit to that, but it would be somewhere in that neighborhood.
All
yes.
right. Cool. Thank you.
And in the full study, they break down the equity adjustments for each category and show the ranges for each pay grade.
Also, I would just add that 2% and 3% are what the surrounding districts, by and large, are offering according to TASB and what they've been discussing. So that's kind of why we brought those two amounts to you. Yes, definitely. All right. So now we'll get into putting it all together and, just as of now, which is, April 10th. We've still got a ways to go with preparing and refining. And, lots of things can happen. Lots of expenditures can happen between now and the end of the year. ADA issues can happen between now and the end of the year. So we just get, the closer that we get, the better refined the numbers are. And the more confident we are with what they're going to end up being. But again, what's allowing us to use the glide method is the way that we've managed our funds and our reserves thus far. We are, showing an estimated $111 million as of the end of this year. We've had budget amendments throughout the year that, have contributed to that. However, because of the way we've managed our funds, we're able to do and employ the glide method. What does ADA look like? So ADA right now, enrollment is higher than it's ever been at 24,278 as of this report. And ADA, it tends to lag behind a little bit, and there are reasons for that. But, one of the reasons is because of our expanded pre-K, and we only get half an ADA for pre-Kers right now. It would be nice if the legislature would fully fund and pre-K. We would like to see that, but thus far I haven't seen a whole lot on that. But I guess they're thinking that their increase in basic allotment is going to help with that. But as we know, pre-Kers are the most expensive to educate because the ratios, and you have to have 22 at max in the classroom with an aide and a teacher of record. So they're the most expensive, and we get the least funding per ADA. So that's unfortunate. So add that to your list if you would like to call your representatives. But certainly we would like to see our ADA number increase. It is, higher thus far than it has been, but it's still not where we would like it to be. We would, of course, like it to increase. So what does all this look like as of today when you put it all together? So I put a side-by-side from what changed from last time to this time, because as everything is going to be further refined, right? We get a closer idea, a more definite idea of what ADA is going to actually be. And so we start, sharpening our pencils and refining that number. We refine these other numbers as well. All the payroll reductions and budget reductions have been factored into these numbers. You see what changed from March 6th to today. We've had a little bit of an increase in the revenues due to some, further refinement of the ADA number. However, as I mentioned earlier, that formula transition grant, that's not finalized until September. So if they throw us a curveball and say, oh, we're going to cap this out at 66% or something to that effect, that would definitely hit our bottom line as far as revenues are concerned. We're hopeful that won't happen, but, we have no control over that application on proration. So we're just keeping our eyes peeled and keeping our eye, and paying attention to the legislative updates from TASBO and Moat Casey, and we're crossing our fingers. So let's hope that stands. We've had some quotes come in for our property insurance, and it has increased substantially. Due mainly, or rates across the board have increased with property insurance, as you all, I'm sure, know, personally and commercially, especially when you have proximity to the coast. So our insurance premiums this year increased $1 million, almost $1 million. So I've sent the consultant back to do some more calculations on that to see if we can bring it down by increasing our deductible and that sort of thing. So having them sharpen their pencils and bring us, whatever reductions they can bring within reason, and not putting ourselves out there, with making our deductible too high, but certainly increasing it and seeing how that can bring down our premiums. The payroll number here, that has everything in it. That's got the reductions that we've gotten thus far. And again, this is April. We've got a couple of more months of hard work and, refinement ahead of us. So what we're looking at right now is still the $12 million that we talked about last time. But again, this does not include any raises that we may offer, which we just discussed in the previous slides with Dr. Bollinger. So if we wanted to factor in, 2.6, and the 2.6 for 2% would just include teachers. It's not a general pay increase. We were just isolating the teacher portion. And if we wanted to add in a general pay increase or section some of those increases out and leave out certain groups, we certainly have that option. But as you can see right now, we're right at the $12 million with no additional positions, no additional funding requests, and no raises. So that's kind of where we stand right now. We're still working, of course, but that's kind of where we stand at the moment, and we continue the work. But you can see here are at the very bottom line. We have reserves beyond the 3-month requirement of $33 million, even with the $12 million being factored in. So that's kind of where we stand right now. Does anybody have any questions on this slide? Because this slide kind of summarizes everything to date.
Right. I saw a couple of lightning bugs as you were going over this. On payroll, that number is, just go over that again, and I will listen slower.
Yes, sir. So I spent quite a bit of time last week refining those payroll numbers because it is the largest number, and just a slight tick one way or another can make, huge changes to the final number.
Right.
This does have all the reductions that we talked about in that previous slide, that $14 million in reduction in costs that we've been working on since November. It has it in there. The reason why you don't see the reduction bear out in this 410 column is because of the migration from the ESSER funds. Those individuals that are in ESSER funds right now, which I think is around 14, 15 million, I'd have to look back at my number to get it exactly, but those, because ESSER is going to be exhausted by the end of this year, all of that payroll cost has to migrate back to general fund now. So basically the 14 million in reduction that we just worked through from November up until now is offset by that ESSER migration for all those individuals that are migrating back.
So in plain English, the unfunded mandates from 4545, which we were told to spend our ESSER money on, are truly unfunded now.
Yes, whatever portion that we find ourselves having to foot the bill for are definitely going to be unfunded mandates now out of the general fund.
And then I heard you correctly. None of the raises we were just presented are in these numbers.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that is correct. So right now we're still working on more reductions. We've got more, now that we've gotten, the lion's share of the payroll reduction items, dealt, pretty much dealt with up until now. I mean, we can still talk about more, obviously, but we'll start looking at some other reductions as well. So this is just as of April 10th where we stand.
Okay, if we could go back to slide 8, please. Where it says it's like it's market survey, our comparison group.
This one?
Nope.
I'm sorry.
One more. 2 more. One more.
One more. There
no
we go.
more. Good. So let's go down to Goose Creek where we have this year's number of students. 4715 FTEs is this year?
Yes.
Like right now, that's what we have.
That is correct.
Okay. So if we took, this is, take it for what it's worth. This is just something I did. I took this out one more column and I divided student enrollment by the number of FTEs. And if we organized it, we would be number 1 because we have fewer students per FTE than anybody in our group. If nobody changes except us, then we'll be number 6. So that's just something for us to think about as we go along. And if I'm basing that on the number from my favorite 2 slides, 13 and 15, where you tell me we're basing our increases on 3848, which is what, 800 and almost 900 fewer FTEs.
Yeah.
We have 4715 here, and on slides 13 and 15, we have 3848 showing as FTEs. So have we already cut 867 positions?
I'm sorry, I can't see the slide number, so 38.
Oh, sorry about that. I just going by the pages that pop up on mine. Go one more. Either the blue one or the purple one. Down general pay increase line next to the bottom, it says total staff 3848. How does that where does that number relate to the 4715 we're talking about this year?
Yeah, so for the current data that they pulled for us, it was a self-reported survey, so they pulled from a database. And then for the pay increase model, because we noticed that discrepancy too, and so we were talking with our consultant back and forth, it's data that they pulled in February. And so we're not sure if some part-time positions were pulled back in early fall when they looked at that initial data for current based off projections for this year. So the more accurate number for where we're at right now is in the 2% and the 3% raise for those two. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
A little bit. So
but they pulled
which number is closer to the number of FTEs we have today, the 38 or the 47?
The 38. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, then we're not number 1 anymore.
Nope. We don't want to be number 1 on that.
Not on that one, no. Okay. Thank you, though.
But I will tell you that we're in communication with TASB, and we need more clarification on that because we recently had that question on, why is there a discrepancy? And it's always pulling
that's
data.
A huge number, and it's a lot of dollars to play with.
Right. Absolutely.
So what's TASB basing their statement that most districts in our comparison group are giving 2 and 3%? Is that a hard, fast survey people participated in, or is it hearsay, or what is it?
That's just based on the studies they're doing for the districts across the state and specifically in our area. That's pretty much where it's landing, 2 and 3% for teachers.
We have one person that's designated to do our review. That person, while doing our review, gave a verbal notification of what most districts are doing. So to your point, it's not in writing anywhere.
Right.
Because it's not even public information yet.
Right.
He was just trying to share what generally most districts that TASB is working with are looking at the 2 to 3% mark.
If you look back at well, I know you don't have numbers, but go
back,
maybe forward. No, the other direction. Nope, go backwards. And again, stop. If you look at that last column, that the last increase people were given, but that was based on having ESSER money in the bank and wanting to spend it, especially HISD. But the 4% and the 5%, how are they going to sustain that if they're still doing 2 or 3%?
That was the feeling that most people who did do something last year will not do as much this year.
And they're always the holdouts, waiting for everyone else to announce so they can, go one higher.
Right.
But, that's the sentiment that it's going to be somewhere around 2 to 3%.
I'm just, I'm always for paying people as much as we can. I was going to say what they're worth, but we can't do that. We'll pay them as much as we can. But the sustainability issue comes to mind, and if we do either one of these raises to be competitive in our market, we're going to just put back in everything we've worked hard to pull out.
Right.
Exactly.
But I'd point you to the slide that we're on right now. Look at the bottom 5 districts.
Yep.
They're double our size.
Yep.
And you might notice their starting pay is significantly less than ours.
Yep.
We have a lot of neighbors that are actually,
So they're trying to catch up.
Yeah, that are directly in competition with us that are, actually touch our boundaries. And so it kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. Like, you see Crosby here even, several districts that are very close to us that we're trying to compete with as well. So
Absolutely.
that makes it difficult.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said we were having to put in, would you say like $14 million back in because of positions that are paid for currently by ESSER funds that we're now going to have to absorb those costs. So are these positions that the state's telling us we have to have, or are these positions that we've hired because we had the money at the time and now we're going to have to pay those?
It's the latter. It's positions that we were able to hire after, the realization that we were going to receive these ESSER funds. And, most of them are the ones that we hired, they're like the last ones we hired, so to speak. Not 100%, but, most of them are. But yes, within the last 3 years since ESSER funds became available, we got that liquidity.
Are they all instructional? Are they all teachers? Do we have some admin in there that we've hired because of
It's mostly teachers, and they're all coming back onto the general fund payroll now. They were on a grant fund payroll, and now they're coming back onto general fund payroll. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's mostly teachers.
So when we were looking at the number of teachers we were having to reduce and stuff, were those teachers included in that number of?
Yeah, it included everybody that we're reducing. I mean, we're looking at positions overall.
Okay.
And that's why we're going through the revised staffing guidelines and following those guidelines, because we know that where we're at now, we're getting out of the woods with COVID for the most part being behind us and addressing the learning loss. Now we need to make sure we have a staffing formula that's financially sustainable. And so part of that equation was reducing campuses with teachers, because we know we had quite a bit of an addition. TASB recommended that we cut 150 teaching staff district-wide. We're around 100 because, again, the gliding method, we want to be sensitive to that. But it wasn't just teachers. It was administrators. It was paraprofessionals. And so we've looked at every single area. And it's been challenging. Like Bridget said, we've cut $14 million. We still have $12 million to go. And so we've been try to be very strategic in that process, but also be sensitive to make sure that instructions, first and foremost, are focus, instruction and safety.
Right.
But at the same time, we know that, like Mr. Clem said, with the staffing percentage that you pulled, that probably needs to be corrected, and so we're in the process of doing that.
For example, if you went with the TEA recommended for secondary campuses, it could be 30 to 1 in every single classroom. We know that's harmful to students. So we're not jumping off a cliff. We're easing in, and this hasn't been easy, I'll say.
No.
But we're adjusting back to the ratios that were pre-pandemic.
Yeah, we're trying not to be, we're trying to do it as mindfully and as Dr. Bollinger said, as strategically as possible, while still, making sure what we put in place is sustainable. And we're not even going back to as stringent as what the guidelines were pre-COVID for that very reason, just because it's a huge change for the campuses. Any more questions on the compensation
So
or any slide thus
If
far?
we threw 2.5% out there, would that roughly be 5.4, 5.5?
Be an average,
Right,
somewhere
kind
around
of
an
right in the
average.
middle of those two?
Yeah, yeah.
That's not enough difference to do it.
Yes, sir.
Why, or is it standard for more experienced teachers to be below market? I mean, that stood out at me. And then our least experienced teachers are above market. That's not registering to me. Because I would think that we would pay our more experienced teachers, the money they should deserve. Right.
We've looked at, examining those bands in the higher categories, and we just aren't able to do all of the bands at once. But we certainly want to be able to attract. Certainly want to be able to attract teachers, right? But we also want to reward the ones that have been here and have many years of experience and been very loyal Goose Creek teachers and educators. So it's something we can still revisit. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Dr. Bollinger.
Yep, and I think whenever we do just a general pay increase, wherever we start, if it's a 2%, even go back 10 or 15 years ago, I think this has not been a 1 year or 2 year problem. This has popped up often, and I think we would just have to talk with our representative to see what different options we have on getting above the median for those 15-year and 20-year veteran teachers, because that's where we dip after 10 years, and so we can look at maybe coming back to the table with some of those options.
You don't have to be above.
Right.
The chart right after the 3% increase, where you have the blue, orange, and green lines.
Down.
One more. That one again. That one.
This one.
There's obviously equity adjustments there on the top two.
Correct.
Yes? Because they've jumped.
So we've done that before. We've addressed equity adjustments at market value for different years of service. And then the thing about it is it changes every single year because someone else will change theirs and someone else will change theirs. So
Right.
Our lines look like this at one previous proposal, whether it was last year, year before. It's been.
Well, and where I was heading was if you look at 0 years and measure on my ruler, it's about 1 inch apart. But when you go down to 20 years, it's only half an inch apart, So it's still from one end to the other, just like Mr. Renteria said, it's still not equitable in that venue. And we're talking about 14% of our teachers are on the right end.
Right.
And 50% of our teachers are on the left end. So,
That is correct.
but could I speak that everybody feels like we need to stay competitive and not bury our head in the sand? But bring us back next time, maybe a little bit more equity on the right end.
Okay.
Compared to what we have on the left end.
We'll have those as an option
let's
to look at.
let's have maybe a 2% option with, I'm going to just call it right equity,
Right.
and 3% with right compared to what we see tonight.
We can certainly.
And if somebody can say that better than me, jump right in.
They got the drift.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. Now, I never let you get to the end of your slides, so I'm going to turn my mic off now.
No problem. All right. So again, this is where we are right now. Of course, this will change. When we come back at the next meeting, some of this will be further refined. Hopefully, some of the costs will be decreased again. Some may increase. Further we get down the line and numbers become more definite. Here's what we are looking forward to on our calendar. May 1st will be another board workshop that will begin at 5 o'clock, just like this one. We'll start getting into more details of the compensation plan based on your feedback and any new information that comes about. Then on the 22nd, we'll have another workshop, but this time it'll be in the form of a superintendent report because that's more of a lengthy May meeting and the top 10 being in that. So those two, and then actually June 5th, we will, based on your feedback from the 3 board workshops, we'll bring you the compensation plan for approval and board action on June 5th. So, and then of course on the 19th, we'll have the entire budget, which incorporates the compensation plan, to be approved and adopted hopefully on June 19th.
One more question that has nothing to do with your slides. We get action alerts from TASB. I get them from other organizations I'm in just about what's going on in Austin. Do you get those from TASBO? And is it anything you could alert us to that we may not be getting from our other organizations?
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure you get things specific to the dollars that we're not getting in general education groups.
Right, absolutely. Also, I get some of the election information, and two of the main points on the elections are going to be, there's a proposal for November-only elections.
Right.
And then there's also the supermajority.
Yeah, we've gotten both of those. And,
yeah.
But specifically, I'm not getting as much about House Bill 100 as you've been talking about tonight. So
oh, yeah,
if you
absolutely.
could cue us in, because I click send on every one of those that I agree with.
Oh, absolutely.
But, yeah. Right.
House Bill 100 is the school finance vehicle, and anytime I get updates for that, I'm quick to share. So
okay, great. Thank you.
Keep an eye on that for sure.
Thank you.
One question before.
Sure.
Just to add in what they were saying, if we get the figures for as compensation, can you put in there how much compensation it would take to get us to that equity, but also how much it would be for as the total budget for as instead of 12, is it going to be 15 or what to get back up to an equitable amount for our seasoned teachers and everything?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We plan to bring that back for you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say that a few years ago.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. A few years ago, we were not at market with the 10-year teachers, and we worked to get to that point. And so it's a work in progress. So I think the next step in the progression is to hit the 15 and 20 year.
Yeah, I remember that. All right, thank you very much, and we'll call the workshop closed now, and we will reconvene at approximately 6. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regular board meeting of the Goose Creek Board of Trustees to order at 6:09 p.m. Just for the benefit of anyone that just arrived, items 1 and 2 on the agenda, our board budget workshop occurred between 5 and 6 p.m., and we are now on agenda item 3. Also, if there's no objection from the board, I'm going to reorder the agenda under item 6. We're going to move item E up to A and then follow in subsequent order. All right. Dr. Bollinger.
Okay, good evening, President Clem, school board members, Dr. O'Brien. The opening exercises for the April 10th Board of Trustees meeting will be provided by the wonderful students from Lamar Elementary. First, we will begin with the opening ceremonies with a prayer led by Mr. Clem, and the pledges will be recited by Olivia Favela and Allison Hernandez, who are students from Lamar. So everyone at this time, please rise for the prayer and remain standing for the pledges.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the beautiful time we've had together so far. We ask you to guide and direct this board as we make important decisions that will shape our district for years to come. Just give us the wisdom to know the right path to take. Thank you for these students and their parents and their families that are here tonight. We ask that you give them safe travel home. It's all these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
United States of America. Thank you. You may be seated. Tonight, Lamar students will be singing the song Roar for us. Students performing are Olivia Favela, Arcelia Favela, Laura Lopez, Gabriel Lopez, Cesar Lopez, Allison Hernandez, Leslie Hernandez, Leah Lopez, Gianna Lopez, Julian Medeiros, and Jasmine Woodley. Students are under the direction of music teacher Miss Eason and principal Mrs. Maria Rosas Gonzalez.
Are there parents here that would be willing to stand up and take ownership of these students? We'd like to give you a round of applause as well. Parents, grandparents, family members.
Thank you, students. Dr. Bollinger, if I could interrupt.
Sure.
Mr. Sampson, sorry, I forgot this part. Was our meeting properly posted? Yes. And do we have a quorum?
I got caught up with them.
Yeah, I did. We all did. And we have our quorum, yes?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you,
do.
sir.
All right, well, that was awesome. We're excited to roar tonight about several students, staff, and programs for their outstanding achievements. We're going to start off with Ms. Kendall David, our Executive Director of Community Engagement. She wants to give a recognition for one of our members in the audience tonight.
Good evening, Dr. O'Brien, President Clem, board members, district employees, and guests. This evening, we would like to celebrate a woman that has so selflessly poured every ounce of her time into her community and the district for 3 decades. My Lamar students, can you come and join me up at the front and celebrate somebody? Maria Rosas Gonzalez, Lamar Elementary School principal, recently made her decision to retire from the district at the end of the 22-23 school year. Maria is the true epitome of a GCC ISD giant. Maria, can you come on up? Don't be shy. She is, just a little bit about her. Yeah, come join us. Come celebrate. She is a 1988 graduate of Lee High School. She attended Lee College for 2 years before the University of Houston Clear Lake, where she graduated with a bachelor's in bilingual elementary education and a minor in art. In 1993, she received her educational management degree. Maria began her career as an educator in Goose Creek CISD in 1988 through the Teacher Assistant Program. She taught for 1 year as a substitute teacher, followed by another year as a student teacher before she was hired full-time bilingual education teacher at San Jacinto Elementary School in 1993. She remained in that position for 9 years before transitioning to the bilingual reading recovery position, where she remained for 3 years. She transitioned out of the classroom into campus leadership, beginning at Lamar Elementary as a family involvement coordinator, where she remained for 3 years, and then became an assistant principal for 9 years, followed by 4 years as a campus principal. So impressive to be at one campus for that many years. Maria's original application from the 30 years ago asked applicants to express their views as to why and how they could be a successful member of Goose Creek staff. Her response, much like her public persona, was profound. She said, "Through my wonderful experience with children, I have come to the conclusion that every child is special and unique and capable of learning. And it's that very sentiment that has led her to be one of the most beloved educators in this district." On behalf of the superintendent, board of trustees, 24,000 students, and 4,000 employees, we want to thank you for your service to the district. We don't take for granted that you chose Goose Creek CISD to be your forever district. Know that no matter where you land, you can always call Goose Creek home, and the impact you've made on all of us remains in our hearts and minds forever. Thank you so much.
Keep rolling, boy. They look good. That made them in the one that was so loud. Yeah, she was loud. I'm like,
All right, very well done, Lamar students. Next, we have a presentation from Amanda Kennington, the coordinator for Healthy Community Schools. So you can come on up, Amanda.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Thank you for having the Employee Wellness Director, Stephanie Myers, and I here tonight to celebrate a few individuals in school community on successful participation in the 2023 It's Time Texas Community Challenge. The pledges of support from the GCCISD School Health Advisory Council, the Board of Trustees, the Be Well Baytown Collaborative, and administrators across the district encouraged 423 GCCISD staff members, 50 GCCISD students, and 173 family and friends of Goose Creek CISD for a total of 651 participants, a lot of numbers tonight, to register and make healthier choices during the 8-week community challenge. GCCISD placed third overall out of all large school districts in the state and earned 1,589,500 more points than we did last year, for a grand total of 2,967,250 points. Good job. And the city of Baytown earned second place in the top 10 medium communities. We're honored tonight to recognize the 3 top schools that earned first place on the leaderboard in the campus competition. Each will receive a Salad Bowl trophy donated by Awards and Engraving to proudly display for the 2023-2024 school year. As I call your campus, please join us at the front to accept your award. And then once all 3 schools have been announced, we'll take a group photo. The High School Salad Bowl trophy is awarded to Impact Early College High School. Principal Laura Reyes and Wellness Champion Erica Leal led 14 participants to earn 98,800 points. Great job. The Elementary Salad Bowl trophy is awarded to Harlem Elementary. Principal Betty Baca and Wellness Champion Sherry Young led 61 participants to earn 356,700 points. And last but certainly not least, the Junior High School Salad Bowl trophy is awarded to second-time junior high champion E.F. Green Junior Owls. Principal Ernest Brooks and Wellness Champion Cabral Thomas led 119 participants to earn 593,899 points. In addition, E.F. Green Junior School earned an ITT It's Time Texas 8th place distinction out of all the top campuses in the state. So they were awarded 8th overall in the entire state. So congratulations to E.F. Green. Ms. Myers?
All right, so we're so proud of this year's Community Challenge participants, and we'll continue as we work to help our community and our district be healthier. I would also like to invite Mr. Sam Chapa, our GCC ISD Wellness Warehouse Foreman, to the front to be recognized. Mr. Chapa accumulated the highest individual points of 72,500 and is the 3-time leader of the Baytown GCC ISD It's Time Texas Challenge. He continues to motivate others while working on his own fitness, and this year he went above and beyond to ensure that our community and campuses were successful as he led the district chair and the SHAC Family and Community Engagement Subcommittee. Sam set the stars in motion, and we would like to recognize him for his efforts today. Thank you, Sam. Now, in conjunction with the 22-23 GCC ISD Wellness Program, more employees are utilizing the fitness center to exercise and reach their fitness goals. I would also like to recognize today, if he's here, Mr. Scott Haney. He is our GCC ISD Fine Arts teacher at Pumphrey Elementary. Is he here? We would like to recognize him for completing 3,900 minutes of physical fitness activity hours, which is a cumulative of 5,900 points for the Wellness Challenge Center, and also being our wellness champion. So he will receive a plaque on behalf of the district. So thank you, Board of Trustees, for your support of healthy initiatives, and congratulations to all of the rewards. You're always winners.
Overall, all of our points.
Okay, next we have our Director of Bilingual Education, Kay Cruz. Is coming up to recognize some of our outstanding teachers.
Okay, good evening, school board president, school board members, and Dr. O'Brien. On behalf of the bilingual department and Alina Abshire, who is not able to be with us today, from Beacon Federal Credit Union, we'd like to recognize our Houston Area Association of Bilingual Education Teachers of the Year. For Elementary Bilingual Teacher of the Year, we have Nicole Rivera from Harlem Elementary, accompanied by her principal, Ms. Baca. I'll wait till the end to take one of them. Our ESL Elementary Teacher of the Year is Crystal Garcia from Alamo Elementary, accompanied by Miss Leah Abbott, her principal. Okay, and our secondary ESL Teacher of the Year is Miss Tamara Henderson from Baytown Junior, accompanied by her principal, Miss Mackion.
All right, next we're going to recognize participants in our Leadership Development Program. To do that, we have our Area Executive Directors, Dr. Sandy Conklin, and also Mr. Kevin Foxworth.
Okay, President Clem, Board of Trustees, and Dr. O'Brien, the LEAD Academy, led by our Area Executive Directors, is a unique leadership development program for current assistant principals who aspire to lead in the principalship and district level role. The program is designed to support growth of strong educational leadership skills leading to improved student learning and overall organizational effectiveness. Participants were chosen after an application process which included submission of their resume and a quality of responses to short essay questions, which were scored using a rubric created by a district committee. In addition, selected candidates had to receive a favorable recommendation from their principals. Participants engaged in discussions and activities around topics that included instructional leadership, climate and culture, data-informed decision-making, professional learning communities, and preparedness for administrative interviews. In addition, each participant had to develop an action learning project to address an area of need on their campus. They presented their projects to their peers, the principals, and members of the Executive Council on March 21st. We are proud of the work they have done and look forward to seeing the impact they will have as they continue to lead their campuses and in our district. All right, participants, y'all come forward. First, we want to recognize Dr. Alicia Babbitt. Okay, next is Miss Lacey Gordon. Next, we have Miss Demetris Haynes. Miss Michelle Jackson. Mr. Jonathan Kirksey. All right, Miss Sharon Parker. Miss Shauna Prentice. Miss Tamara Price. Miss Nancy Rodriguez. Miss Julicia Wooten.
All right, and last we have our Deputy Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, Susan Jackson, here to recognize our Principals of the Year.
Okay, good afternoon, President Clem, school board members, and Dr. O'Brien. I'm really proud to be up here to recognize our two principals of the year. First, I want to recognize Leah Abbott, who was selected as the 22-23 elementary principal of the year. Leah is a principal of Alamo Elementary School. She has served Goose Creek for 14 years as teacher, instructional coach, assistant principal, and principal. She is currently in her third year of the principal of Alamo Elementary, and at this time we will ask her to come up and be recognized. Next, I would like to recognize Ernest Brooks, who was selected as 22-23 secondary principal of the year. Brooks is principal of E.F. Green Junior School and is also a product of Goose Creek. After a year of teaching in St. Louis in 1999, he returned to Baytown. He got smart. Then he coached and taught special ed at CBJ for 13 years. He served as assistant principal for 5 years, then accepted a junior high principal position in LaPorte for 3 years, and then he got smarter and decided to come back to Goose Creek and started in the 21-22 year preparing for the first official opening and the first principal of E.F. Green Junior School. So we're proud to recognize Leah Abbott and Ernest Brooks.
All right, and this concludes our recognitions and acknowledgments. Thank you. Ms. Abbott, we have a surprise recognition.
That was me. Love you guys.
All right, we have arrived at the point in our agenda where citizens' participation is the time that the board will hear public concerns or public comments from those who have properly signed up to address the board. At regular board meetings such as tonight, the board shall permit public comment regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with notice of this meeting or not. Excuse me. Each speaker is reminded that he or she is limited in his or her presentation to a maximum of 3 minutes, and that he or she should respect confidentiality concerns and refrain from attacking the personal character of any individual student, staff member, or board member in addressing concerns or comments. Pursuant to state law and board policy BE Legal, the board cannot consider or take action on concerns at this meeting unless they pertain to an item on the posted agenda for this meeting. Any deliberation or decision on an item that is not posted for consideration at this meeting shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda of a future meeting. Mr. Sampson, the board secretary, will keep time, and he will give you each 3 minutes. He'll give you a 1-minute warning and then call time at the appropriate moment. Our first speaker tonight is Gwendolyn Hall. And the floor is yours.
To report bullying and incidents towards my daughter. I have spoken to counselors, teachers, officers, principals about these issues. My daughter has been a victim of harassment and cyberbullying. Her grades are slipping. She's afraid to return to school since she was in a fight and assaulted on March the 27th. Campus administration has not offered an effective solution. She has been subject to hostile and abusive learning environment. My daughter needs help. She has had to seek outside counseling due to the bullying. She's shaking, having anxiety, nightmares, self-harming, and sleepwalking. I am aware that children have normal spats and arguments, but these are not normal. She's having threats to bodily harm. That's not normal. Threats to kill is not normal. Threats to be locked in the locker room and beaten is not normal. She's been taken pictures of in the lunchroom when she's minding her own business and circulated around campus. It's not normal. Video recordings of her being harassed and crying and breaking down circulated. It's not normal. Her crying out is not normal. Please investigate, look at the records, and you will see not one time has my daughter I've been called to say that she initiated anything. She's been reaching out for help. She's been crying out. And I just ask that you guys will investigate, find out what's going on. She only wants to be safe. She only wants to do what every other student wants to do, to be able to learn in a safe environment, to be able to go to school and eat lunch without being worried about what's going to happen, to be able to walk the hallways and not worry about if somebody's going to hurt her. I thank you for your time.
What campus is your daughter at again? Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Renee Torres. I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. C-O-N-D, maybe Ari.
Buenas tardes. Les pido una disculpa porque no hablo inglés. Hice un resumen corto de los puntos más importantes. Me gustaría tener una reunión. El primer motivo es de robar la niña.
One momento.
Ok. Lo hice aquí porque es muy largo.
She's apologizing for not being able to speak to the language. Dígame usted, yo lo digo en lugar de él.
El tema es Canet Estrella Terán Torres.
Her daughter's name is Canet Estrella Terán Torres.
La clase es de robare.
She's.
O no sé cómo se dice.
I'm translating, speaking Spanish. So she's in the robotics class.
Yeah. La maestra Helder Comasa.
Her teacher's name is Heather Camosa.
Está haciéndole bullying a mi hija desde el mes de febrero hasta el día de este sábado de abril.
La maestra?
Sí.
She says she's being bullied since February by the teacher. Since February.
No es justo lo que están haciendo porque está incluida una madre de familia que no tiene autorización sobre mi hija y no se la estoy dando ni a ella ni a nadie.
So está actuando como mamá de su hija.
Ella está ayudándole ahí en la escuela a la maestra. Ella actuó. Otra mamá.
Another parent is involved in her daughter's discipline that she did not agree with.
Está recibiendo maltrato físicamente, emocionalmente, moralmente.
She's physically, morally being mistreated.
Al grado de que le gritan, la humillan, la insultan y hasta la han hecho llorar y de su coraje ella se ha vomitado.
They embarrass her, humiliate her, and they yell at her that it's made her daughter throw up while she's been at school.
Es importante que me puedan ayudar o que tomen cartas en el asunto. Ella es una niña especial. Me duele mucho porque no me están haciendo caso. Estoy tratando de hacer las cosas correctas, pedir ayuda. Hasta ahorita no la he recibido como yo quisiera. En el año 2021-22, la maestra la expulsó de robar.
She would like to get fair treatment and she would like to be listened to. She said she was expelled in 2021, and she just needs to be heard and would like help from you all.
Por calumnias que no son correctas y la difamó diciendo, la maestra difamó diciendo que mi hija fuma marihuana, se acuesta con cualquier niño. Eso es demasiado para mí.
She's been humiliated, and there's been lies told about her daughter that she smokes weed and sleeps around in the campus.
Y yo aquí presente les digo que es una calumnia, porque en el instante que pasó el percance, estaba una patrulla de policía en el estacionamiento, y como me dijo la señorita de la policía, no pasaron minutos cuando yo estuve en el instante con Canet, hablé con la niña y esperaron a que yo llegara para hablar primero conmigo antes de que yo recogerla. La maestra quería que se la llevaran detenida por lo que había pasado.
The police came to the campus when she was accused of smoking weed, and they were waiting for the mother to arrive, but the teacher did not want to wait for the mother. She wanted them to go ahead and expel her and take her without her knowledge.
La policía me dijo que no me preocupara de nada. Ellos hablaron bien con Canet, con la estudiante, la psicoanalizó y Canet, él pudo sacarle la verdad, y Canet dijo que ella nunca había consumido eso. Ese aparatito era de un compañero de clase de Robare. Por X razón ella no se lo dio porque entraron a clase y a la hora de salir ella se sentó en una banca que tenían ahí y eso salió disparado de su suéter y la maestra desde ahí la acusó y dijo a la escuela Roberto Lee muchas mentiras, muchas calumnias, como diciendo que ella hace drogas y se acuesta con los niños. Eso es lo que más me duele, que hasta el día de hoy le está afectando en su rendimiento académico. Aquí traigo las pruebas.
She's falsely being accused of smoking weed, and that is harming her academics. She said the vape pen was not hers. It was another student's, and it fell out of her pocket when she sat down. But what hurts her the most is the lies that are... Ya se acabó el tiempo. Pero usted, si necesita problema, puede hablar a mí. Yo le puedo ayudar y puedo traducir todo lo que tenga que decir. Mi nombre es Erika Foster.
Ms. Foster, could you ask if she has spoken to the campus administration? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foster, for helping. We appreciate that. Our next speaker will be Lori Ortiz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lori Ortiz. I gather here today to make a report and to be the voice of the unheard. 4 months ago, my son Eli Ortiz joined the robotics team, and with so much excitement, he looked forward to be there as many days out of the week as possible. He went to the Channel View competition and came back very, very happy, sharing with us about his experience. But after that, I started to notice him less interested in going to robotics. So I asked him why, and he said things like, nah, I just don't want to go. I don't feel like going. At that moment, I knew something was going on, and little by little, I started to get curious about the situation, and I decided to find out more about, because I know my son. He's a very determined person. He's not a quitter. He was super interested in learning what robotics is all about, and I wanted to know what caused him to lose interest so suddenly. When it was time to go to the San Antonio competition, my husband and I had our concerns about the trip, as in where they're staying or where was the event going to take place. There was no information sent to the parents concerning the trip until maybe a couple of hours before departure. I also found out that the teacher in charge, Ms. Camosa, was planning to take the students to a place called Dick's, which I had never heard of. And when I did my research, I got so upset And I was wondering if the rest of the parents will allow their kids to be taken to such an inappropriate place without their consent. So I immediately emailed Mr. O'Brien and Mr. McCall and let them know of my absolute disapproval, and they resolved the issue. The San Antonio trip went on, but just as soon as they come back from the trip, I picked my son up from robotics, and he immediately told me, "Mom, I do not want to be in robotics anymore." So I started asking questions and listening to what my son had to say. I checked my son's phone and read the conversation between Ms. Camosa and the mentors and noticed how she can be very rude to anyone. I consider that very unethical and immature. I don't understand why students have to read conversations between adults in the same chat and see how someone can handle a situation in such an unprofessional manner. On their way back from San Antonio was a commotion and disagreement about whether or not they should gather at the robotics center the following Monday and Tuesday. And Ms. Camosa did not want to open the center because of personal reasons and because she was tired, so she tried to manipulate the situation and told the students to say they don't want to go Monday and Tuesday because they felt tired. My son and other students refused to do so, to do as she said, and she made a tantrum about that. When my son started going to robotics in January, they had a group of 32 students, and up until last week, only 9 students showed up at the George Brown Convention Center. That should have raised a red flag about the importance to investigate why these students are quitting. Not only my son, but more students decided to quit.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Raul Blanco Jr.
Hello. I'm Raul Blanco. I attend Robert Lee, and I'm part of the robotics team. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. The robotics coach, Ms. Kamasa, has very much exercised favoritism among students, certain students on the team, and along with those students, their parents. She has also involved those parents in helping her make decisions on the team without involving all the parents of the students on the team. She has really shown that she does not want mentors on the team, and she has continued to push them away. Mentors who have helped various other teams, mentors who work for NASA, who help us and help us learn. This weekend at our state championship here in the George R. Brown Convention Center, she took a student off the drive team just for arriving early to arriving late to robotics center, not getting on the bus on time. But yet this student managed to arrive at the George R. Brown Center at the exact same time as us and had never been late to a single other event before, hadn't been late to any practices before, had arrived almost every single day, and she got punished for just arriving late once to a competition. And even then, she arrived at the exact same time as us. And she was removed off of the drive team and told that she could not sit with the team for the rest of the day. She has also caused the leave of multiple mentors. One of them was disrespected by one of her favorite students. She gave him a bad attitude, and nothing was done about it, and so he left. His name is Mr. Serrano. I believe he teaches at Sterling. And there have been many disagreements between her and other mentors who have also tried helping us and assisting us in many situations. She makes her decisions based off her own opinions and does not take other opinions into consideration. That'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Yazel Amador.
I start crying, please forgive me. So I've been involved in volunteering to the Goose Creek for 21 years, various activities on all my 3 children that have and were in. And I've been involved with FIRST Robotics since my son was in 4th grade. Now he's 24. Now he's a head mentor. I've been mentor booster club for the Bargo Fish from 11 years ago. In all of this time, on the team, I've never encountered a teacher facilitator in charge of the team with the least knowledge of robotics or FIRST Robotics like Ms. Heather Kamasa, but I tried to do my best to provide her with the best knowledge of rules of FIRST and help her in everything that I could due to the demanding from FRC. I felt that the teacher in charge of the FRC team needed a lot of support and help, and I gladly helped her and gave her as much as I could. We started having issues with Ms. Kamasa since the semester started. She started yelling at the students and not enforcing rules equally to everyone, which is still a problem. She is discriminated against students and myself according to her own rules and judgment. She started being rude to the mentors, including myself and NASA engineers, until one of them started to leave one by one. She openly stated that she did not want any mentors. By the time I had already written and spoken to Dr. McCall, sent letters to Dr. McCall, Dr. O'Brien, and Ms. Wyatt, we have never seen an issue with mentors or volunteers up until now. Ms. Kamasa joined the team, and the only solution was to make a rule book for mentors and teachers. In the meantime, while these rules are being made and written, nothing was done about Ms. Kamasa, and the problems got only worse. Students, including my daughter, Selena Amador, who had waited 11 years to join the team, are now sad and depressed and have been getting bullied by Ms. Kamasa and by Ms. Kamasa's favorite students. Students now bullying other students who are labeled traitors or are not accepting the dictatorship of Ms. Kamasa has created. Since my daughter is not a quitter, she decided to make the most out of it, the most out of the robotics. Out of the 32 students, only 9 or 10 are there. Dr. O'Brien wrote me a letter back, and the comparison that he made is that the mentor should not be able to put input in the head coach's decision, similar to the parent would not be put any basketball strategy. But the comparison is not accurate. The comparison should not make like Michael Jordan came to a basketball game and coach the mentor or the coach at a Sterling game. Obviously, the coach will listen to it. Similar with the mentors literally sending rovers to Mars. That's the mentors that we have right now, that we had. And the decision, they could not make decisions on anything of the robot actively, push back, and they were gone. Little by little, we have no mentors, and that's the reason we did not make it to World Nationals or win anything on state, because there was no mentors. The satisfaction of them is just to come and give free time, because they come on their free time after work of NASA and are there for them every time. Due to the fact that I've been trying to openly come to this to you guys, I've been threatened by Ms. Lydia Juarez and followed by Ms. Denise.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Kim Kostick.
Howdy. Good evening, Dr. O'Brien, President Clem, members of the board. Each year, especially in elementary school, children are sad when they're losing their beloved homeroom teacher and when they move up a grade level. Each year, those teachers not only prepare them for the transition the best that they can, but they also provide them comfort knowing that they will still see them at school. We've all been there when we were little. I attended Harlem Elementary, where Kay Hersler was my principal from start to finish when I started as a kindergartner. In junior high, I had the same principal all 3 years, and the same in high school. Wow, have times changed. As you may know, I have a senior that has been at least since her freshman year, and in these 4 years, she has personally experienced 5 different principals, 3 of which were head and 2 AP grade levels. My sophomore has had the leadership of 2 head principals and 2 APs. My kindergartner at Travis has only been there for 2 years and has seen 6 leadership roles, 3 principals, and 3 APs. And that doesn't even include the changes in counselors. I can't even count how many times that those administrators have changed or how many school or grade level counselors I have been through with my kids in the last 17 years with being a Goose Creek parent. My circumstances are not unique. Each time that you approve these switcheroos, this is what you are approving. Have you ever noticed how many are only on the campus for only a year or 2? But the kids are there from 3 to 7 at least, and if they have families, many times over 10. The recognition tonight was well-deserved, but it should not be an anomaly. I honestly can't keep track of how many that my children have seen. In elementary, the leadership on their role is a bit of a celebrity, and as in junior high and high school, they signify stability and discipline in a world that is so crazy, where children thrive on strong relationships and trustworthy adults. Surveys from our kids show that they don't trust administrators or their disciplinary consistency. Why would they when it changes before they can cultivate strong and solid relationships? Frequent changes in leadership gives kids inconsistency in unstable environments. How are they supposed to know who the authority is and build authentic relationships that result in trust? Same goes for the teachers. Their transfer requests speak to you, and you should know who and what actually isn't working. As you saw in the recognition earlier, being a principal or a counselor is much more than a title. Let us promote up within our campuses. And as a parent, I have to remind myself that although they are my children, it's their childhood. It's your school district, but it's their school years.
Thank you. That concludes citizens' participation. We will now move to agenda item 8, approval of the March 6, 2023 regular board meeting minutes.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Renteria and a second from Mrs. Guy to approve the March 6 regular board meeting minutes as written. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed and abstain. I have 5 for, 0 against, and 2 abstentions. Motion passes. Number 9, discussion items, superintendent's reports. Dr. O'Brien?
Yes, this evening the board, administration brings before the board for consideration Superintendent's Report number 1, dual language two-way report in update, followed by Herff Jones yearbook presentation. Ms. Banda, Ms. Cruz, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, as I said before, congratulations on being here and seeing me twice doing that. So anyway, welcome. I have the pleasure of introducing 2 amazing team members for the bilingual department, our director, Kay Cruz, and coordinator, Sam. Really excited. Sam's kind of a product, and she's been moved up. Both are in their first year in this position, and really excited with the work that they have done. So I'm going to turn it over to them and pass it on and see if we can entertain y'all with some amazing things.
Good evening, Board President, board members, and Dr. O'Brien. We would like to take this opportunity to talk about our dual language two-way program. Our team consists of 5 individuals, myself, the director, Sam, the coordinator. We have 3 specialists, bilingual ESL specialist, Araceli Garcia, that's not with us here tonight, but Belinda Morales and Jeanette Salazar are with us here tonight. Okay.
Moral support.
Yes, moral support, okay. Our dual language two-way immersion program is a program that offers native Spanish speakers and native English speakers the exciting opportunity to learn a second language. This program is designed to teach students a second language in a natural way through subject content instruction, classroom interaction, and daily interactions. We have three focuses that our program includes, and they are to achieve high levels of academic proficiency in both languages, to develop higher levels of self-esteem, and to develop biliteracy, multilingualism, and multiculturalism. At this time, we have 4 campuses that have the dual language two-way housed at their campuses. We have Alamo that currently has kinder through first grade, Asheville Smith that has kinder, Harlem Elementary that has kinder through third grade, and Carver Elementary that has first grade through third grade. Last year it was decided due to the large number of EB students at the Asheville Smith zone that the program would start at Asheville Smith and would be phased out once it reaches 5th grade. Our goal is to have the dual language rollout in the two-way by 2025-26 all the way through 5th grade. Now, when we look at our program model is a 50-50 model where the children learn 50% of the time in English and 50% of the time in Spanish. And this is aligned with the district vision of bilingualism, biliteracy, and multiculturalism. This model was chosen to ensure content biliteracy by the time the children hit 5th grade. And we are strengthening the students' Spanish through the math content for our emergent bilingual. Research has shown us that the students to develop literacy in both languages, they must read and write in both languages daily while integrating other content areas in the subject areas. When it comes to the next school year, 23-24, kindergarten dual way will consist of classes composed of native English speakers and native Spanish speakers. Language arts is going to be taught in both English and in Spanish. Math and social studies will be in Spanish, and science will be in English. This year, we had a total of 44 spots for students, and so what we did, a student screening selection process was established the year before that we continued with, which basically is where students are observed in 3 different tasks. And those tasks are literacy tasks, math tasks, and behavioral tasks. The team of the dual language program, our department, conducted observation conferences, and we're glad to say of the 44 students, all parents have accepted already, so we are full. So we did have quite a big turnout, so we were very excited with that. And as soon as those letters went out, we got those approvals right away.
Yeah, they definitely could not wait to accept that. I'm pretty sure they got the email and they clicked on it right away. So it is amazing to see that, especially within our district. As we walk out into the community, we're proud to say that what we're doing is empowering for all of our students. So there are many advantages of dual language programs. You can go ahead and go to the next one, Ms. Jackson. Thank you. You're doing great. So along with all of them, there's also academic achievement, higher levels of academic achievement in both languages. We want to ensure that we're strengthening their first language while building on an additional language and building those bridges between both. They also have higher performance in standardized tests and an increase in future marketability in the workforce, just like our bilingual teachers actually receive a $4,000 stipend. That's one of the many advantages that our students will have in the workforce. So research, there is a lot of research out there. The most predominant research is the one done by Thomas and Collier. I'd invite you to look that up. It's amazing. If not, we can totally send you all of that. That's not a problem. We have it all on hand. But what this consisted of is a longitudinal study, and Houston ISD was actually part of that study as well, because, you know, they're a huge school district, not better than us, okay? But what they did was they assessed through years to see which program models would actually close the achievement gap. And as you can see, based on the norm reference assessments that they did in English across all content areas, the one-way dual language program and the two-way dual language program were the two program models that actually closed the achievement gaps versus the other programs that fell below that NCE across the nation. And over the next 2 decades, you're okay, Ms. Jackson. Over the next 2 decades, they have researched even more, conducted more longitudinal studies, and it continues to show the benefits of dual language.
Okay, she's going to allow me to speak on this one. So she will give you the research, and she did give me the research, and we spent lots of time together. And so we had a group that we brought together representing all the dual two-way and created a focus group to say, hey, how do we want to move forward and what do we need to do? So our goals of that was to determine the research-based model that we would be using for Goose Creek. And then based on the program model, what were we going to align the minutes so that we can ensure our instructional minutes were allocated correctly? And then based on the student needs and the teacher feedback, develop a PD proposal for this year. Excited that we've got that done. We had 15 participants, myself, we had HR involved, our area executive directors, and the bilingual ESL department. I really have to brag on the whole department. Belinda and the whole group, Araceli, was all part of this. And we really listened to teachers because teachers were not feeling the love. And so we needed to hear why and what we could do to correct that. And it has been an amazingly quiet year this year, which is good for me. You want to expand on that, Sam?
Oh, absolutely. In collaboration with everyone else and all the stakeholders that were involved, we worked with TEA. We contacted districts around the area that have been implementing dual language. So a lot of those accomplishments and those goals were met through collaboration. We even contacted Albuquerque in New Mexico because they're used a lot as an exemplary district for their implementation of dual language. So we wanted to ensure that we heard from various perspectives to ensure that our kids were getting the best, and they are. So as part of the focus group, various accomplishments happened as a result of the goals, like Ms. Jackson was saying. Our allocation plan has language arts in both languages. We are building content by literacy. So while in kinder they may be receiving math in Spanish, we're still bridging in the English to provide that support and that linguistic transfer between both of them. Our allocation plan also has a new STAR redesign. As you may know, STAR is integrating science and social studies. So what we're doing is integrating that into our allocation plan. It's very interdisciplinary as well. The instructional minutes have writing integrated across all content areas to ensure that they are building that by literacy. Our professional development plan has been based on student needs, teacher feedback, and it's ongoing. And there's cross-linguistic connections built in. Like I said, that's the linguistic transfer between both languages to ensure that our students are using both languages simultaneously.
Okay, we have some program highlights. There was an increase of EB students being referred for the GT service in kindergarten. When we did early exit in 2021, there was 49 students that qualified for the GT program.
Help us with what EB is, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, emergent bilinguals.
It's the new LEP term, or ELLs. Okay. LEP, then ELLs, and now it's EB.
And it may change next year. It changes all the time.
We can't keep up.
No, we can't. And when we transitioned into the dual language in 21-22, 105 students qualified for the GT program. And big difference. So starting next year, we will be doing progress monitoring with the universal screeners in both languages so we can track that progress in both languages. This year, the teachers chose what language they felt the children were stronger in, but next year we are going to move forward and test in both. Yes. I stood up, but she beat me to it. Yes, she does.
We're gonna work on that.
We're going to work.
Well, I understood, but I know they.
I know, right?
I know we were like, who's going to get us?
Well, we're all right, ready. Let's go.
Gonna test my bilingualism today.
Right.
I think Naomi should have got it, but she's good.
We do have a partnership that we've had for 2 years with TEA. We were part of a pilot where we have worked with them with monthly meetings. We have established a lot of partnerships, and also we're very excited to say we've had ensemble learning, which it provides staff development, and they have adopted it again for next year. But this year they only did staff development for 2 campuses. Next year they're going to do 7, and then the following year they're going to do the rest. So we're real excited to have TEA and ensemble learning as part of our district, because we know that there is rumors that the state is going to go dual language. So we feel like we have a head start because we're getting in on all the framework and everything that TA is working on. So we feel we have a head start there.
I also want to add that this is a grant that they receive from TA. Does it cost you anything?
Nothing. The best part, zero. Do you want to talk about the 2?
Oh, yes, and in partnership as well with Aldine and Pasadena. Those are some of our neighboring school districts that we've developed a strong partnership with in collaboration to ensure that we're gathering ideas and perspectives from others to improve our program and do it better.
Thank you.
Oh,
Gracias.
you're not finished yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Are you Spanish?
Yes, sir. My mom was from Spain. Spanish was my
Ooh.
first language. Learned English at age 12.
Well, remind me to tell you my Spanish lesson about Spain.
She can.
Not tonight. What about lunch and specials? What do our dual immersion kids do for specials? Art, music, PE, lunch, etc.
So in specials, they're building a lot more of their social skills.
Mm-hmm.
So that is all in English because we do not have a lot of our specials teachers that are bilingual, but that's where they're building a lot of their social language, just like in lunch as well.
And so when I get to my 3rd grade STAR test, can I take it in Spanish or English? Or is that an accommodation?
No. Because we are assessing for content and not for language, what research shows is that they should take it in the assessment that is going to show their best knowledge regardless of the language.
I love that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Thanks a bunch. Good report.
Thank you
y'all
for
this
being
was
here.
going to be a good one.
Yeah, we're pretty good. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Y'all are really excited.
Our next presentation is on Herff Jones. Welcome. Y'all will be able to introduce yourselves once you get going here.
Good evening. Hi, I am Angela St. Clair, and I am the school partnership representative for Herff Jones for this area. And I'm with Lindsay Tomlin. She is your local yearbook representative. And we are happy to be here and look forward to a partnership with you next year on your yearbooks. Do you want me to keep? Okay.
I'll start. Okay, so and I am Roxanne Wyatt, your CTE director. So board, good evening, President Clem, Dr. O'Brien. Thank you for having us tonight. I'll start us off with just kind of a background of why we're here and the presentation that you're going to receive tonight. So previously and currently this year, we have another vendor for our yearbook. As you're aware, we transitioned to Herff Jones for our graduation services this school year. I had yearbook advisors coming to me beginning in the fall, inquiring if we could also consider Herff Jones for our yearbook needs. And so while we could not do that for this year, we would like to have your consideration for approval to move into that contract with them for next school year. The services that they've provided, we've went through the printing agreements, looked at all of the details. I've gotten feedback from my yearbook advisors. I collected data from all the junior schools as well as the high school campuses on yearbook sales, number of pages, and items like that to share with Herff Jones so we could ensure that we were getting the best deal and the best quality for our teachers. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Ms. St. Clair.
Okay, thank you. The first thing I would like all of you to know, many people are familiar with Canva. Our online program to design yearbooks, we have an exclusive partnership with Canva. It's embedded into our program. So all of the teachers that Lindsay and I have spoken with, and Lindsay more on her own, some of them I haven't met, but they are very happy about that. It's very user-friendly. It was designed for the InDesign user, so a lot of teachers used to use InDesign, which is the industry standard, and we designed eDesign so that anywhere you have internet, you can make use of it. Very user-friendly, and Canva is a big wow. We also would like to share that we are the only yearbook company that individually enhances photos. Other companies enhance by the page or the spread, but we have an exclusive partnership with Fuji, and I've seen it in action. If you go to our yearbook plant, and 3 of your high school teachers have gone and seen this in action at the yearbook plant, and we're really happy that they were our guest for that. So Color Plus is a big part of what we do, because we know there's no one true skin tone, no one true color. Everyone is different. All colors are different. So we want to highlight that and make sure that we have the best photos in your yearbooks. We also love to support the teachers in what they do, whether they're veteran advisors or brand new teachers. We have a curriculum designed by former advisors, former educators, modules that are hard copies but that you can print from online. There are PowerPoints with speaker notes so that if you have a brand new teacher, they can be the expert up and going with Lindsay's help right away. Lesson plans, scope and sequence already created for it. So we really like to help the educator. We have a yearbook order center. We have a partnership with PayPal. If you need to use PayPal, we can set up payment plans for parents. You can order online. Schools can also take orders at school with check or cash if they would like, and Lindsay helps them set all of that up in our program called eBusiness. This is just a reminder. A lot of people don't think about what all goes on in a yearbook classroom, but those teachers are running a business, and those students are learning so many life skills. A good yearbook program done well, many of those students are prepared more so than a lot of AP students for life in general and in college. And so we support that in our kit. We have posters to remind students of all the skills that you can learn in yearbook. And then distribution day, part of what we like to do is to celebrate distributing yearbooks. And so if the schools would like to have a distribution day party, we like to help that with resources and funding to help them do that. If I were Oprah, everyone would have a yearbook, not a car. So we try to make that happen the best we can. There's a program where the community members, students, teachers outside of yearbook can share photos with the teacher, and then the teacher can decide whether to use them in the yearbook, and that's our eShare program. This is a really cool app that we have. If you purchase a yearbook, you can also have it on your phone. So it's great for students who are away at college. Maybe the books got delivered and they were already away at college. They can access it through our +1 app and then pick up the book when they come back for fall break or something. I love our app. And then our yearbook plant is in Edwardsville, Kansas. It's been there since 2005, and it replaced a yearbook plant that we had in the mid-'60s. It's state-of-the-art. We get awards all of the time for our environmental practices with recycling and glue and ink, and we're not going anywhere. We plan on staying right here in the States, and we're very proud of all of the people that we have in our plant. There's a longevity there. Family members are working together at our plant. And again, 3 of your teachers have already been there, and we're happy that they were allowed to experience that. This is the one-page proposal in addition to the printing agreements that Lindsay prepared for each school with the pricing that's already been shared. But Herff Jones, we know we're called a vendor on your books, but we really want to be a partner with your schools. We want to give back, and for this partnership, we are presenting $50,000 to be used at the district's discretion, and an additional $23,000 in partnership incentives And in the black box are ideas that the district can use to apply that money. But included in this is stage clip for your seniors, and I can provide more information if needed on that. But it's a very cool video that you can have for your graduates and your parents. The Believe in You series and curriculum, which includes empowerment journals and guest speakers for teachers and students, professional development for your teachers, and then a sideline store for fanwear, because Herff Jones is part of Varsity Brands. We're a family of company, and that includes BSN, that includes Varsity Spirit, and that includes Herff Jones Scholastics and yearbooks. And at the end, it just kind of shows you a little bit of what our family does. We have an ongoing partnership with St. Jude, and if a school wanted to do a fundraiser, we would match the funds for that. It's a lot to throw at you at once, but just a little picture of who we are. Any questions? Stage clip? Sure. Yeah.
I mean, of ours.
Oh.
He wants for Lee.
Okay. Well, the stage clip offer, I think I told Ms. Wyatt and Dr. McCall that it could be for this year or next year.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't think we have anything planned like that for graduation. Do we?
Well, why don't you tell us what it is?
Okay. I just didn't know if I had the time to. So what stage clip is it really took off during COVID because you were having virtual graduation, so high schools were filming their graduations. Well, now it's just growing even more since COVID because people liked it so much. You all film your graduation, but from there, our partners with Stage Clip, they will brand it for your school with your logo, your colors. The yearbook teacher usually is helpful with extra pictures or videos, B-roll, if you will, that you can put in that. We put music to it. So the parent can actually watch the graduation and not be holding their phone filming the graduation. And then, since the first year is complimentary from us, and you can do it any year you want, you can monetize it. So if a parent wanted just a video to show their child walking across the stage and not all 1,000 kids walking across the stage, they can customize it and have that video with all the other B-roll and music and such. So that's what Stage Clip is.
Cool.
I can speak with graduation committee and Dr. O'Brien.
Yeah,
Dr.
just send us a recommendation on that.
A quick question.
I kind of figured, when it said video, I kind of figured I just didn't know the full details of what you're talking about.
Yes.
I have a quick question. I'm not sure, but when yearbooks go out, do they go out the same year in the school year? Do a student receive it within, like, let's say this year of 2020? Will the yearbooks go out this year?
That is up to each school. Like elementary and junior highs, yes, they always get those before the school year ends. But high schools can choose to do a spring, summer, or fall delivery.
Okay.
So if you do a spring book, that just means that in the physical book, you're not going to have your end-of-the-year activities or your sports that go into maybe June.
Gotcha.
But you could do a supplement and add to that book. If you do a summer book, it would come out, say, in July or August, and you could distribute it the first week back to school.
That would capture the whole year.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's really up to each school.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah. How many partners do y'all have in your company right now?
In the company or in?
Just, you keep saying partnerships. I'm just trying to get a handle on what kind of partner. Yeah. When you say partners, are you talking about schools? Or are you talking about?
We like to call each school who works with us a partner because we like to, invest back in your school. So that's what I'm referring to. Each school as a partner.
Oh, okay. I
And
thought
if you
maybe you had financially to you all to be able to do what you're doing?
Well, I think it's the reason why we can invest in schools like we're doing is because we're part of Varsity Brands.
Okay.
So it's a family of companies. So, like I said, BSN Sports and Varsity Spirit, Herf Jones, Scholastics, and Yearbook all fall under Varsity Brands.
Oh, okay.
And so basically, we're kind of a one-stop shop for anything a school needs, from athletic equipment to yearbooks to caps and gowns. Rings, yes.
Are you looking to be partners with all 28 schools?
Well, this particular proposal was for your junior high and high schools, and yes, we would welcome to partner with as many schools that you would approve.
So we had actually, when I spoke with the principals, many of our elementaries, their yearbooks are done through the PTOs, and so they don't necessarily go straight through the school. So right now our focus was on the ones that we manage as a school district, but certainly we'd be open to offering opportunities to our elementaries.
In the elementary school books, use the same program. They have Canva built into them, and then you can do softback or hardback, or you can have a split order. And those are really simple because they have one deadline, shipping's included, and it makes it very easy on the schools.
I see at least one yearbook teacher in the audience. Any questions from the gallery?
Good. All right. Yeah, you've told us your obligation to us. What's our obligation to you? What's Goose Creek's obligation to Herb Jones?
We have printing agreements that we would sign with them, which is normal with any yearbook company. So based on the number of yearbooks that we're proposing to sell at each campus, there's a cost associated with that. Also based on the number of pages, if you're doing hardback or softback. And so over the period of a year, our campus would pay that to them for those services. And as you are probably aware,
Yeah, so that part in your book has never changed.
No.
Okay. And what about the oil pencils to crop photos with?
Well, I know those. I mean, when I talk about that, people are looking at me like I, am very strange.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
When we used to have grease pens and light
I mean,
tables.
everything's digital now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that should conclude, unless you have unless you have a surprise superintendent report, we will move to action items and the consideration of the consent agenda. Dr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Clem. I would recommend to the Board of Trustees to consider the consent agenda for approval, beginning with action item 10A1, donation from ExxonMobil. Number 2, engagement letter from the independent audit firm of Mays & Associates, PLLC, formerly the Stark, Garcia & Stanley Company, for the district's annual financial audit for the fiscal year 22-23. Number 3, resolution extending the depository contract of funds for Goose Creek CISD. Number 4, instructional allotment and TEAC certification for the 23-24 school year. Number 5, proposed low attendance waiver for De Zafala Elementary on March 31st, 2023. Number 6, Herf Jones as a vendor for yearbooks. Number 7, grant memorandum of understanding, the MOU between the City of Houston Health Department, HHD, and Goose Creek CISD. Number 8, agreements between Harris County, Chambers County, and Goose Creek CISD relating to joint election to be held on May 6th, 2023. Number 9, resolution opposing vouchers, education savings accounts, taxpayer saving grants, and other mechanisms that divert public education funding. Number 10, final option to extend the RFP for beverage vending services. Number 11, third option to extend RFP for generator maintenance, repair, and inspection services. Number 12, first option to extend CSP for maintenance, building supplies, and materials. Number 13, tax refunds. Number 14, budget amendments. And number 15, the adoption of the Texas Association of School Boards Superintendent of the Year Award.
for Dr. Randall O'Brien, Superintendent of Schools, for his exemplary and visionary leadership toward improving student performance in our schools. Would anyone like to pull an individual item for consideration or ask clarifying questions?
Number 6.
Number 6. You have a question or pull it for individual?
Question and individual.
Okay, we'll pull it and we'll come back to it. I heard an to my right.
I have a question, clarification. On the number 9
Mm-hmm.
you know the Texas legislature fixing to pass something on this, on vouchers and
The session's in until June 30th.
Yeah,
parents' choice and so forth.
and we're opposed to it.
You say so.
Number 6. They just talked about.
Anything else? I have a question, Ms. Jackson, on TIC certification. And we're just saying that we're providing appropriate approved materials through our allotments to teach all of these TICs, right? And the reason I ask is the core subjects were very specific, and then on the page I have to sign, it said, oh, and by the way, we do these things too. And that's all we have to do? Okay, thank you. All right, so I would seek a motion considering the consent agenda items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 through 15.
I'll move to approve consent agenda items 1 through 5 and 7 through 15.
I have a motion from Ms. Guy and a second from Mr. Cotter to approve 1 through 5 and 7 through 15. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Seeing 7 for and 0 against, that motion passes. We'll return now to consent agenda item number 6. Mr. Sampson?
Mr. Sampson, what was your question regarding the vendor?
Was this something that had to go out for as yearbooks and get bidded on?
Every year we evaluate vendors, and they have the opportunity to apply for to be an approved vendor. Okay. And then it's the district's decision whether to which vendor to select for each of the services that they provide.
Okay, I'm clear on that, but this is the only vendor we had.
Our current vendor.
The current vendor. Does anyone want to speak to this directly? Without going into too much detail, but providing transparency for the reason we would solicit another vendor besides the one we were currently using.
Good evening, School Board President Clem, Dr. O'Brien. To answer your question, Mr. Sampson, we were going with a vendor, or we've been with that vendor for quite a few years. There have been some changes in leadership and also some concerns about the business model as well as the company's sustainability for our particular region. And so our yearbook teachers actually started to express some concerns about the customer service they were receiving, as well as the quality of product for the price that we were paying. And so we switched over from that previous company to Herb Jones for our graduation regalia. And as a result, we began to look at them for yearbook as well. And so our teachers this year spent the entire year up until now just researching the platform to make sure that it would make sense for the quality of work. And so us switching to Herb Jones, more than just a better quality product for a similar price, it's also the customer service piece in the company's organization and structure that's been called into question.
Okay. Now, this particular company, have we been thrown anything to kind of compare the two for as work and everything as a board, for as any information, or just we have a committee or something that just say, oh, they look like they're better than them. The price is this and that.
So a lot of times it starts with, a conversation with us as the school district to say, hey, and it comes up on an annual basis where we are approached by other vendors to go a different direction. This year, just based on some of the concerns that we have with our current vendor, we decided to enter into conversations with them just a little bit deeper than in years past. And so, as they mentioned, we included our yearbook sponsors because they are the experts in it. And so they went to the plant to actually take a look, make sure that it was going to meet the needs. And so after they did that and came back to us and reported, we went ahead and engaged in further conversations with the vendor. And then also, as you saw, with any new relationship, they're going to offer, different opportunities for us to work with them, different incentives. And so those incentives also present some opportunities for us at our junior schools and our high schools as well.
Okay. So basically, are they on a 1 year, 1 year contract? Every year we renew it, or we stuck in a situation where it's a 3 year contract, a 5 year, or what?
So every year, those agreements come back around. And so this time next year, if everything's going well, we'll just continue that work. If for some reason this isn't going well, then we'll be coming back to you all with another vendor to say, hey, that didn't go so well. Let's consider this.
All right.
I got a follow-up question. I think I know where he's going with this, but I'm going to ask it the way I ask it. Why didn't y'all put this out for bid for other companies to bid on doing the yearbook? Is what he's really asking.
Yeah, so with this particular process, because it's not a high-level agreement, remember this is a fundraising opportunity, and so for our programs, they use this as a fundraiser. So I'm just saying, for example, Herb Jones may charge arbitrary number $20,000 for 300 yearbooks. Well, our student organizations would sell, of course, a little bit higher than that to make profit. And so it's a little bit of a different agreement. It's more so of a fundraising opportunity than a contracted service where we're just paying money into having a service done and we're not going to see anything recouped back.
How will we know that if we don't bid it out to other companies? How do we know that other companies won't go, hey, look, we'll beat her. We'll beat them. You give us the opportunity and we'll give you a better deal than they will. How do we know that? How do we know that that won't happen if you don't even bid out?
Right. So typically in these situations, they approach us on an annual basis. Yeah.
Just,
go ahead.
I saw you raising your hand back there, but I didn't.
Okay.
So, thank you, Bridget.
So this is not the chocolate almond in the box type of fundraiser. It's something different.
We hope to raise more money than chocolate covered almonds, although they're delicious.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Bridget. I don't know why I didn't think of it. Right.
And an amazing benefit of our membership in TASB.
You know, when it comes to money, especially taxpayer money that we're using for this, it's going to be questioned.
But this is a pass-through.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
They can pass all.
But these are all great questions, by the way. But it ultimately is a box of almonds.
The ultimate goal is to be transparent, and that's
Yep.
the reason of the question, not to judge what you're doing.
That's the only reason I asked.
I got it.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike.
I don't say that.
Do I have a motion considering Herf Jones as vendor for yearbooks? Okay.
Herb Jones.
I have a motion from Mrs. Barat-Timms and a second from Mrs. Guy to approve Herf Jones as vendor for yearbooks. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed or abstain? I have 6-4, 1 abstention. Motion passes. All right. Future board agenda items.
We'll give them a chance. Samson. Give them a chance.
Absolutely. Anybody going to the Gulf Coast Association Wednesday evening? It's at the Berry Center. Okay. All right.
When is that?
Wednesday. Yeah, this Wednesday. And then everybody should put SLI in September. No. June in San Antonio. Don't go to Fort Worth. And forget everything I wrote you about Fort Worth. Just trust me.
Well, Mr. Renteria likes Fort Worth.
Sorry?
He loves Fort Worth.
But go to San Antonio. Trust me. Okay. Go to both, yeah. All right. We need to look at rescheduling the July 3rd regular board meeting for lots of reasons. So if we could all hit the calendar real quick.
And I got something else to bring up besides.
Yes, sir.
We'll do this first.
Many of our administrative team are going to be doing something not in Baytown. Help me out here.
Well, it's a holiday. It's the day before a holiday.
It's the day before a holiday. Yeah, so.
That will be in Santorini, Greece. So.
Well, then, and Mr. Renteria can't be here, so would we like to move to the 10th or another day of the week?
Yes, sir. There's only one in July, so
right,
just a bump it a week would work well for administration.
Is the 10th okay with everyone? All right, could I hear that in the form of a... Whoop. Wait. Right.
Right.
Well, you would have to have a cabinet meeting and then an agenda meeting back to back almost. Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Garcia says no.
Well, there's going to be one in the month of July, so really your consideration is, would we want to go to the 17th?
When are you coming back, Mr. Renteria?
I want to say that weekend, so before, I think I should be here for 10.
Okay.
If we went to
10th or 17th? 10th. All right. The 10th it is. So the July 3rd meeting is now being rescheduled to July the 10th. Do we need it? Somebody make that in the form of a motion to make it. Well, then don't make the motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we will move the July 3rd meeting to July 10th.
A motion and a second to move the meeting from the 3rd of July to the 10th. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. And all who abstain, raise your hand. And all who oppose, raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to take those as 2 abstentions. We have 5 for, 2 abstentions, and that motion passes. Okay, the board will now recess. We will now yield to Mr. Sampson.
Whoa, grasshopper. Let's go. I got something I want to bring up is that we haven't heard anything from our bullying committee in a long time.
They're presenting once a quarter to the board.
Right, but it seemed like we haven't.
We have the date on the calendar already. Not seeing. It is the May 1st meeting.
Yeah. We need to.
Kind of at the end of school.
Yeah, we need to kind of have.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I think we got present current things going on that we probably need to.
Yeah, we need to have the principal or counselors or somebody look into, because that's 2 at the same school. So.
Tonight?
I'm saying that's.
Tonight's presentation?
Yeah, we had 2.
It was 2 separate schools, but yes.
But both of them were Sterling, wasn't it? Was it? One was Sterling, one was Lee. But we need to look into that a little bit, dig into it a little bit deeper, and find out exactly what's going on.
Yes, sir.
If everybody, is good with that. Okay.
I think we all agree with that. All right. Anything else? All right. The board will now recess into a closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code sections 551.071, 072, 7374, 7576, 082, 83, 84, and 087. No action will be taken while the board is in closed meeting. The time is 7:50 p.m. If the time is 9:12 p.m., we will reconvene into open session. No decisions were made while the board was in closed session, except some bad ones about strawberry shortcake. Consideration of personnel, Dr. O'Brien. It's in the blue folder.
That would be me?
Yeah, that would be you.
All right. Board, we would ask that you would consider personnel under action item E1 and 2 to approve the elections and accept the resignations and retirements as presented.
I'll move to approve the elections and resignations as presented.
I have a motion from Ms. Sky and a second from Mr. Cotter that we approve elections, resignations, and retirements as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Seeing 7-4-0 against, that motion passes.
Administration then would recommend Martha Rangel as a licensed specialist in school psychology.
I'll move to approve.
Have a motion from Mrs. Guy and a second from Mrs. Barat-Timms. Is that right? Yes. Thank you. To approve the LSSP as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? 4? 4. Seeing 7-4 and 0 against, the motion passes.
Administration brings before the board this evening for consideration the coordinator of marketing, Brittany Culpepper.
I move
to approve.
I'll second. I have a motion from Ms. Guy and a second from myself to approve the coordinator of marketing. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. I see 7-4-0 against. Motion passes.
Administration brings before the board for consideration administrator contract extensions as presented, as well as non-extension of 2-year contracts as presented.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion from myself and a second from Mrs. Guy to approve administrator contracts extensions and non-extensions as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Seeing 7-4-0 against, the motion passes. And I believe it's a wrap. At 9:15, we're adjourned. Yay.